It actually cannot be violated in any way. No one can produce more than 21 million Bitcoin. If you hold 1,000 Bitcoin, you hold 1,000 of a possible 21 million forever, right? You have a guaranteed fraction of the total money supply. Bitcoin is the first permanent implementation of this principle we've been refining throughout human history of inviolable property. It actually cannot be violated in any way. No one can produce more than 21 million Bitcoin. So it's, and I've argued this in some of my writing, that although it's an invention, we've actually discovered something with Bitcoin. We've discovered absolute scarcity for money. So if we're back to those 5 properties of money, in terms of scarcity, Bitcoin is absolute. It's not relative, right? It doesn't change. We know with, nothing's, people argue with me about this. It's not absolute. Everything's probabilistic. True. Bitcoin has proven itself over 13 years of flawless operation that it does 2 things essentially perfectly, which are churn out a block on 1 block of transactions on average every 10 minutes and adhere to a supply cap of 21 million. So it's the first fixed supply money there has ever been. And I don't think you can recreate that because by definition, money is a centripetal network effect. So we tend towards 1. So for the same reasons we had 1 analog gold, we're likely only to have 1 digital gold. So your property rights cannot be violated by inflation because no one can change the supply cap. If you hold 1,000 Bitcoin, you hold 1,000 of a possible 21 million forever, right? You have a guaranteed fraction of the total money supply. You cannot get that level of assurance with any other asset in the world. Full stop. Doesn't exist. Even with gold, you can hold all the physical gold you want. You're still not immune to some technological breakthrough. We figured out how to produce gold in the lab very cheaply. We mine an asteroid, we mine the ocean floor, we find a new South American bonanza, whatever. You're not immune to any of that. But with Bitcoin, and again, it's a bit of a bet because it's only 13 years in, but it's done these things perfectly so far. If it continues to do what it's been doing for 13 years, you have a guaranteed fraction of the total money supply. So you have an inviolable property right. Further, this is, again, property is the relationship, right? We've historically always needed an enforcer. So you need the police force, you need the military to make sure no one comes into your house and violates your relationship with your house. We needed, if maybe not necessarily a monopoly on violence, but you needed a protection producing enterprise, which historically is the role of government, to enshrine your property rights. The problem, of course, is that they wield the power to violate your property rights as well, which historically has been very tempting for governments and bureaucrats. They typically give into it and governments get overthrown over time. That's been the cycle we're locked into. Bitcoin's the first property right independent of the monopoly on violence or independent of physical production. It's an informational property right. It's just an alphanumeric string. You can store it in any information bearing medium. Put it in your mind, put it on your computer, put it in a song, do whatever you want with it. And the enforcement is done by the mining network. So the algorithm and the free market competition that's going into Bitcoin mining is effectively displacing the protection that government was historically necessary to provide in Bitcoin itself. So it's this radical new, some people have called it a metaphysical property right, and that it's just an information bearer asset. So gold was really good as a bearer asset in that, assets equal liabilities plus equity, the accounting equation. Gold was pure equity. If I hold gold, it's no one else's liability. That's really important, right? I have no counterparty risk if I hold physical gold. If I hold dollars, that's not true, right? I have this liability to the Federal Reserve, to the bank, whatever counterparties are involved. Bitcoin's the same as physical gold, but it's non-physical, right? It's informational. So it opens up this entire new sphere of possibilities in how you custody it. You can custody Bitcoin in these multi-signature schemas that are all but immune to theft. You can chop the key into a bunch of pieces and distribute it geographically. You have these military grade protocols wrapped around it. And it gives you an absolute, it is the highest implementation of human self-ownership we've ever had. Right? In the past, it's been scribbles on the American Constitution or the Magna Carta, and like, we'll always adhere to this document no matter what. But then, a few hundred years go by, and we're like, well, let's tweak this or change that or add this. Bitcoin's taken those principles we've used with foundational documents historically, and it's permanently emblazoned them in computer code. In unbreakable code, basically, is another way to think about it. So it's the invention of inviolable property,